Yeah.
Okay.
Are you
Yes,
ready?
recording.
Are you ready?
Pump it up.
Welcome back to episode number 24. How are you guys doing?
Guys, I want to just take just a second to recognize that we are streaming in 50 countries. Yes! Yes! Round of applause. Round of applause.
We are officially global.
Thank you.
Perfect.
Thank you for the support, for the love.
Perfect.
That is a solid perfect, by the way. No, it's actually a great achievement. The fact that we're close to the 25 episode milestone and we've already hit 50 countries, and this is with very limited marketing, just word of mouth, people sharing their experience listening to the podcast. Thank you to all our loyal listeners.
Perfect.
An online store will be coming soon. We are still developing it, where you can get your own merchandise, hats, and maybe other items. But thank you for the support. And now we're looking forward to getting the next 50 on the board so we can reach 100.
Perfect.
So you're here with myself, Olu, Shiwal, Pabilo, and Daniel. On this week's episode, we're going to be going into the power of reading, why it's so important for us, and we're going to get in some insight into how Pabilo read 52 books
I'm very interested
in 1 year. I want to hear about this.
I know Omari.
Not picture books, yeah?
It's time. No, it's time to.
Also, another shout out if
actually-
our loyal listener Omari Edwards is listening as well. I know you've been waiting for this episode, asking P about his book recommendation. So this is going to be a very insightful episode for everyone involved.
And then the book review will be taken by Pabilo. So stay tuned and let's get started.
Take off, take flight with you. For we never fly, but we're flying.
So, P, are you going to start off the episode by saying that you didn't actually read 52 books?
No, I wouldn't.
Let's do kind of like a role play piece. So I'm going to play the person of someone who hates reading books, and during this episode, you got to pitch to me why book reading is so important. Yeah.
So let's actually. I like that. It's a good idea. So
P, I hate books. I rarely read. I don't have the time. I'd rather watch TV. I'd rather watch Netflix. Reading a book is a waste of time. So tell me why I should read.
Yeah, but then the first question I ask you is, what is it that you're trying to achieve?
You changed that back. You switched that up.
If you're,
that was a quick switcher. My character development needs some work.
and then we can start from there. But no, what I wanted to do, I wanted to just share a quick story as to my journey, going from effectively reading 0 books for years to then saying, okay, this is actually the thing that needs to start happening. So
When did you stop reading books? Was this at uni?
when did I stop? No, the question is, I never started.
Oh, so even at uni, you didn't start reading books?
Not the way you should. Not the way you should.
Okay, cool.
So, but the thing is, like many of us, so I would say it was up until it was a couple of years ago where I was in this space where I just felt like I lacked inspiration, I lacked new ideas, creativity, but I just didn't know where to go to find that, and so I was just stuck. I felt a sense of stuck, and the only thing I had for me, if you'd spoken about reading books at that time, for me, what comes to mind is like the Harry Potters, the Old Mice of Men, stuff that we used to read at school. It was like, think books that were forced on you that had no connection with what you wanted to do. So it was a struggle to read just a couple chapters. And then what happened was a couple of things happened in 2017 where it changed, I'd say, the paradigm for forever. The first thing that happened was we had a CEO of the pharma company back at the time, and he was given a town hall, and what he said was, after I think during a Q&A session, he says that he tries to read as much as possible, especially when he's traveling. So I was listening to this guy thinking, what is it about this reading? And what are you reading? Right? And I used to think, I just didn't understand. I was like, these guys are talking about reading, but I don't know what they're reading. And I used to read Harry Potter, and that stuff was whack. So I didn't know where to go. But then this is where the penny dropped. Is I had a close friend of mine who's very knowledgeable, very sharp, has a lot of credibility. And one day he was advertising his apartment because he was selling in Basel to go to Zurich. And when I opened up the pictures to look at the apartment, in his sitting room, literally one entire wall was just full of books. So imagine knowing someone for so long and realizing, wow, the reason why you know what you know is because of these books on this shelf. So I immediately hit him. I was like, yo, what are you reading? So being in a space where you're lacking inspiration, ideas, and then seeing, hang on, this reading stuff might be like what makes the difference. So then I think I mentioned it before, and then I came across a social media influencer called Ty Lopez. Daniel's about to start laughing. and I tell you what,
And then he hits. I'm sure he's hit all four of us up with the YouTube ads. That guy is on it.
That's how I know.
because but what made me what erupted me was the fact that he said he reads a book in a day. So I was just saying, look, I don't understand what's going on here. I know people that are knowledgeable around me that read. I don't know what they're reading, and this guy's talking about he reads a book a day, and I don't even read at all. So signed up to his mentorship program, went through that. There was a bunch of sort of
Wait. You sign up to Ty Lopez.
100%.
You got the YouTube ad.
Off the YouTube ad. This guy's nasty.
That's effective targeting.
Wait, how much does he charge?
There was a program called 67 Steps, which I would highly recommend for $70 a month. But you have access.
Okay.
You have access.
Is it a month?
A month. You have access to a lot more. So it's the way
Okay.
to see these things, and I think it's for another episode, is you're paying to be part of a network. So I paid to be part of 67 Steps. I got a lot more out of it. A lot more. So but yeah, just quickly coming to the house. So the very last thing that erupted me and made me say, okay, cool, I need to commit to reading, is that there was this saying, and it said, if you want to keep, it was very deep actually, if you want to keep something from a black man, you put it in a book. And around this,
Yes, I've heard that so much.
P, say that again. That's kind of crazy.
So if you want to keep something
Yeah, perfect.
from a black man, this is the quote. You can change black man with any race, but if you want to keep something from a black man, you put it in a book. And when I came across that, I erupted. I said, no, I need to basically hoard as many books as possible. So the Ty Lopez, what he teaches basically is he teaches you to look at books differently. And he says that books should be your friend. It shouldn't be a one and done. You should use your books whenever you need it in your journey. So his technique and the way he reads a book a day is he goes through the chapters, the contents page, sorry, and he says that the authors spend the most amount of time on the first chapter and the last chapter. So he will read the first chapter, he will read the last chapter, and then he will select chapters in between that apply most to the stage of the life that he's at the moment. So what he needs to get him through the next 6 months or the next 8 months. So he says, why do you have to read a book from cover to cover? And I think that's where a lot of us perhaps get bored, because a lot of us think we get to like the third, fourth chapter and we say, okay, it's kind of fizzing out. So he's quite selective in what he's picking. So that was, and
I guess it is based on, and the question you asked Shua at the beginning, what is your goal? Like, why are you doing it? Like, what are you doing it for? Because if you're reading a book for just improving your vocabulary, maybe it might make sense just to read it from the beginning to the end, sort of thing, and you won't get bored because you're really just, or if you're reading it just to sort of pass time.
Yeah.
If it's a way for you to de-stress, then yes, maybe you'll just read it from the beginning to the end. But I think it comes down to what is your purpose? What are you trying to gain from it? What is your purpose for it?
Yeah, agree.
And then it will allow you to understand, okay, how and what technique you should use for reading.
Totally agree. And so yeah, so I was obviously benefited from the fact that I had access to a list of books, so I didn't really need to think, what do I need to read? So I just started ordering from Amazon. Just started that process. When you get into it, you realize it's like building any habit. The beginning is quite tough, but as you get into it, you'll find that you create times in your day where you start reading. So that year, all I did was literally read. There was no TV, no match of the day, no thing. I cut out most of the things I would do.
Is that why you got rid of your TV?
No, I got rid of it before. Actually, no. Good question. I think so. Yeah, I think it was around through that mentoring program was when I got rid of the TV. So I would basically wake up in the morning. I'd read for say 15, 20 minutes. Then I would read before I went to bed. I'd read during my lunch breaks. I'd read in the evening. I'd read especially when I'm to and from work, on the plane, traveling. And before you know it, most personal development books, I've got on average about 250 pages. you can get through that in at least 5-6 days if you're covering it at that level of frequency. So there, and what you'll find, what's interesting is there are a lot of books, a lot of authors who are in the space of personal development that kind of repeat themselves. So some books you would have read already. Okay, I understand what this concept's about. I can kind of miss a few chapters, pick up the key ones, make my notes, and move on. Some key books cover to cover. So you build up momentum, and you find yourself in a space where it becomes very difficult to put a book down. Only simply because I was thirsty for creativity, ideas, and knowledge. If I didn't have that thirst, I would not have wanted it so much. So I used to, when I went back to London, I would come back with my own suitcase and a suitcase of books. So it was just on this hunt for information, knowledge, and it was tell me.
I'm sure customs were looking through that suitcase.
No.
Just a bunch of books. They're like, what's this guy trying to smuggle in?
Just a suitcase of books. So, and there were many like quotes that Ty Lopez said that left, that sort of resonated very well. But that's how I was able to do it. It was pretty much just focused on fully focused on reading, using all the time I had to read. And the thing about it is, once you get going and you realize what's in these books, you don't want to stop. Because
but saying that, because you're maybe reading the first chapter, last chapter, are you going to revisit certain parts?
100%. So the thing is, what's interesting is I think probably like 20% of the books, of the 52 books, was from first to last, maybe 2 chapters in between. Because what you'll find is that most books, it's like trying to find a needle in a haystack. There's only a few golden nuggets in the book. And a lot of the chapters can bore you if you're not careful. And that's what will put you off reading. So if you find yourself taking the first and last 2 chapters in between, you've got what you need from that book to move on. And that should be how he was helping to redefine the way of reading. And
but how about books that build on previous chapters? So some books take you on a journey.
But those ones in particular, you read cover to cover because and that's what I found myself doing. There was a lot of books where I said, "No, this is too good to miss out. I'm going to read cover to, because I'm in a flow." So and the only drawback, this is why I've made the change this year. The one drawback was it was too much reading and not enough action. So I found myself in the evenings from 7 to 9 reading, enjoying, smiling, but I wasn't taking the action. I wasn't building the online businesses. I wasn't pushing with the property. Now you could say, okay, it's all part of the journey. It's fine. But then what I realized is you can also overdo it to the point where you've got.
So it's the analysis paralysis.
I was high on ideas. I was like, oh my god. And it was literally like every week.
And was it mainly the self-development books that you're reading, P?
Mainly self-development books. I have the list here. Mainly self-development. We can put this list on the next post. All 52 books.
That'll be good. But it's good because it's interesting, because you know how there's like this theme coming around that being motivated and reading motivational books and watching motivational videos has actually become more of a form of entertainment rather than actually getting people to do stuff. Because then you end up consuming all this content all the time, like how it sounds like how you're doing with the books, and then kind of taking your foot off the action gas.
So now basically my approach is it was so what, and I know when you say 52 books, people say, well, that book a week. Sometimes you may have one book that will last you 2 weeks. Some books may you run in 4 days. But at the end of the 12 weeks, it was 52 books clocked in. And it was it was, for me now, what I say basically is it was such a good habit and routine. Try to layer that with a high level of action. So try and see if you can still do a book a week plus put in action. On your way to taking action, read on the train, and you're going towards, I don't know, looking at viewing a property, read on the train, read on the plane. So try and combine it in that way. That's basically the story. So it was a profound quote. If you want to keep something from a black man, put it in a book. It was tapping into a network of expert readers, because Ty Lopez, what he does also in that membership, he also summarizes books. So I would watch webinars in the evening about a book that he summarized, and there's a number of people also tuning in. And then it's like a habit. So it's 52 book challenge. Go.
We're saying we down, group challenge. I'm ready.
We're technically doing it with our weekly reviews. with our weekly book
That's
reviews.
true.
So
Actually, that's true. That's true.
we are doing it. No, on my side, I think most of the books, or a large portion of the books that you're reading, P, are like self development books. So, like you mentioned, there's a lot of knowledge within those books that you can
Mhm.
gain. For the listeners, I guess it goes just, and when I think about it, I'm similar to you. I used to hate reading because in my mind, reading was connected to either school,
Yeah.
university, or it was like for a project. I didn't see what I was looking to gain from it for myself versus just passing an exam or for like a school project. That was always sort of what the gain was. So then the only way I started sort of increasing that and changing my mindset was really just understanding what am I trying to really gain
Yeah.
from it. So like I mentioned to you, I feel like there's multiple advantages for reading, and you've just got to decide which one meets your needs and sort of read towards that need or that goal. So I think for UP, you realize, okay, you're in a stage of your life where self development is key for you. There's a lot of knowledge that you might not get around by the people you know, but you can get that experience from books that people have written that you might not even get one-to-one time with those sort of people, but because they've left a book for you, you can download that knowledge from them. So when I look at it, as I was, like I said, there's multiple reasons. When I was writing down notes of what my reasons or what are the reasons, is one, to get a perspective of life. So a lot of people read books so that you can see other countries, understand other countries. You can just learn new things from or get a different perspective of life. You can do it to get smarter. So like P said, there's a lot of knowledge in books. And like P's quote, if you want to hide something, put in a book. So by reading those books, there's so much knowledge that you can gain. Um, then you've got sort of increasing your creativity, improving your memory, trying to master a trade or a skill, improving your vocabulary. So if you want a vocabulary like Daniel over there, pick up a book, start reading it, you'll pick up new words.
Daniel Johnson.
Increasing sort of the goals that you desire. So like P said, self-growth book. Reducing your stress. So if you find out that you're stressed all the time, sometimes people find it relaxing to go to a park, pick up a novel, read, de-stress, and then it.
That those, just to add one point to that, Olu, those days where you got the time to go to the park and sit back and read a book, you are having a good day. Enjoy that moment. Enjoy that moment.
And then the last
Enjoy
one
that
is just
moment.
really like stimulating your mind. So sometimes we can become very passive by just looking at a screen. By reading a book, you start to stimulate your mind. Ideas start to come across. You start to critically think what you're reading, and then that way you're able to sort of stimulate your mind. So I think the first thing you just need to define is what is the reason you're reading, and based on that fact, then you should find what book meets that need. So if it's to read, improve your vocabulary, pick up a book that you want to increase your vocabulary. If it's for self development and knowledge, then pick up self development books. And like P said, yes, read it, but also put the action into it. So I think for the listeners, is first understanding why, and then finding a strategy
It's
that
like
fits you.
Do you know, and actually on that, the reason why, because I actually similarly, I think around the time that Pabilo went through this kind of reading renaissance, if you want to call it, he was telling me about it, and I was
I like
thinking,
that. I like that.
and I was thinking, oh, P's making a good point. Actually, I should, because when I was younger, I know P was slating Harry Potter books, but for me personally, I really enjoyed
I,
reading Harry
I
Potter
was not
books
allowed
to
to
the
read
point
Harry
where,
Potter books in a Nigerian house.
are you serious?
Witchcraft.
Why? Why?
You bring a Harry, you
Oh
bring a
my
Harry
god!
Potter book home.
Oh
Your parents are like,
my
what is
god!
this witchcraft that you're
Wait,
reading?
no. Harry Potter books as a child for me was what gave me my love of reading. It was to the point where whenever a book came out, I would force my dad to go to the Woolworths, the local Woolworths store, to go and buy it on the day it's out. And then once he got it back to me, I would sit and read that cover to cover through the night. I loved it so much. So I personally really enjoyed it. Then when I got university finishing, I just lost that passion for reading. And actually, I didn't start rereading again because I was because there was a reason or something that I was lacking at the time that I was aware of. The main reason why I was reading is because all the successful people in the world, people like Warren Buffett, Bill Gates, Barack Obama, all of these guys, a very common trait was the fact that they were reading regularly. So I didn't go into it trying to think, oh, I have, because I mean, of course, I had some gaps that I needed to fill, but I was looking at it more of, if there are all these successful people reading, then who am I to say reading's not for me? I might as well give it a go. And during that time, that's when I was having conversations with Pabilo, and I could hear a lot about the energy and ideas that were coming from him. So I thought, okay, clearly it's a sign from the universe that I need to give it a shot. And then I started reading one book, we talked about it way back. It's called Principles by Ray Dalio. And then it made me realize how much information there's out there that's available, building on what you were saying, Olu, that you can grow and learn about. And I'm just not tapping into for what reason? Just because I want to sit back and chill and watch Netflix. Like, come on. I don't.
Just to add to your successful, so I found, realized that only until I started reading, the common thread between a lot of highly successful people is their ability to read a book a week or 60 books in a year. And Warren Buffett actually said, I think somebody asked him, if you could have a super skill, what would it be? And I think he said the ability to read faster. Both him and Bill Gates said the same thing. Yeah. So, and I was just thinking, Ollie, as you was talking, I just wanted to add on some of the benefits that I know that Ty Lopez spoke about. One, he said, the power of reading allows you to simulate the future. Because as you're reading as you're reading autobiographies and you're reading self-help books, you're getting a chance to understand what the short to medium term future will look like based on what others have done. And they say it's great to learn from your mistakes, but it's even better to learn from somebody else's. So by reading, you cut your learning curve dramatically, because you're effectively picking up all of the sort of cheat codes that people have gone through. And I remember also Will Smith said very nicely, he said, there's just two things in life you have to sort of focus on: running and reading. The reading, because there's no problem in the world that hasn't been solved already, and it's somewhere in the book. And then with the running, it's the fact that when you're on a treadmill running, at some point your mind tells you want to stop. If you can combat that mindset, you do very good in life. So
yeah, but with all the reading, I think, I believe that it's the benefits of reading are negated if you don't remember what you read. So it's essentially you're just reading, flicking pages, but you're not dissecting. You're not taking in what you're reading, and unless you revisit, take notes. And I think, because some people might think, yeah, I want to do this, but I'm not a fast reader. They might like to read at their own pace and try and digest things and consume things as they read it or take notes. I'm one person, if I see something, I'll underline it, write it down in my notes. Like, for example, when I first started reading, I wanted to improve my vocabulary and vernacular. So I would see new words and I would write them down, and I would try and use them in that week or in that day and try and learn a new word every day. And if you're trying to achieve the goal of, say, 52 books in a week, you might go past the idea of actually trying to understand what you're reading and just trying to hit that end goal. And that's why
Daniel is that taking a little shot.
No.
Go. I want to see the back.
I'm not taking a shot because I'm not taking a shot because people read at different paces. Some people can read fast and take it in. Some people need to read slower.
What I will say, there was definitely times where I was thinking to myself, I am trying to get to that goal. When I was falling behind, okay, just maybe perhaps go through this book a little bit quickly. But what I will say is that you cannot deny when you come across something that hits you. And so to your point, you as I totally agree with what you're saying. You're talking also a lot about the technique on how people should read, and they should capture 2-3 key action items after reading. Otherwise, you haven't really put it to good use. But when you're sort of new to the entire game and you just start reading, there are things that are going to jump out, slap in your face, and you're going to just be like, I don't even need to write that down. It's on now. I know what, okay, I understand what's going on. The other piece I want to just quickly mention was when I had almost like a Denzel training moment situation where when I realized that, like when I spoke earlier about Calvin posting his apartment for sale or to advertise, and I noticed the books, what I found is that reading amongst everybody else was almost like a secret. People didn't really talk about it, but they lived and died by it. You see what I'm trying to say? So when I found that, I was like, oh, okay. You want me to say nothing to me, yeah? Okay, so it was kind of like, that's how I felt, right? When I realized you guys are where you are because you read.
Yeah.
And I'm out here reading no books. No, it's not about to happen. Going down. So that was a lot of the energy in the beginning. So but yeah, I find that people keep it, it's not a secret, but they just maybe they grew up reading. So for them it's like, well, this is what I always do. So yeah, but no, Dan, totally agree.
So, you know, people could start off with a different challenge. Something I was doing when I was growing up. My dad said when I was living at home, I think about 14, 15, was to read one book a month. And that's how it was, getting a book that you liked and you enjoyed, and you just read it for a month, and then that was 12 books in 1 month. And as you get older, as your love for reading increases, or as you find the type of books you want to read, you can increase that. Because there are many books that even I have today that I still go back to refer to look at certain things. And these are typically in the self-help arena. So there are things that will stand out that you would remember for the first week or two. But as time goes on, or as you enter a new season in your life, you may want to kind of pick that up or try and remember what you read, and you'd refer back to that book. Whereas we're talking about cover to cover, that might be more appropriate for a fictional book or a story book or an autobiography. You definitely can't be skipping chapters of that. Because obviously you'll miss key parts. But with the books that maybe the self-help, yeah, I do agree. Every chapter isn't necessarily imperative you read, but you can probably pick point the ones that you want to really delve into a lot more.
And do you guys make a mark in your book? Because one thing that I like to do is just add post-its. So I like, because I don't know, it feels weird for me making I feel bad on the book if I start making marks in the book, but
Nope.
I put post-its
No.
on every page. So then, as you're saying, Daniel, when I go back to reflect about a book, or I think, oh, I'm going through this, I remember reading about this in this book, I can go back to it, pick it up, and I can go straight to the post-its because I know those were the personal key takeaways for me.
Now I write on my book. I've basically vandalized it because it's my book.
Fair.
And there's one book I read. It said, "This is your personal book. Write what you want." Because it's not, books aren't always for passing on to people. If you want to refer a book, buy the book for someone. But even when I write on the book, I might also have another A5 sheet called a trigger page. And every time I'm triggered by something, I'll write it down on that page, and I might reference the page number. So at least I've got a summary page of all the points that stuck out to me on one A5 sheet, and I've got writings and annotations in the book itself.
I use a very light pencil, cuz I'm
You've been using pencils since uni. You've been using pencils since uni.
I'm exactly the same as you. I feel like these books, they've got their own lives, and if I'm just writing all up on them, I'm hurting the book. So I'd rather.
So when I ordered books home, my younger brother, some of my brothers would start reading them, and Ishmael went through. He underlined text with a pen, bro. When I came back and I saw it, I almost killed him. I said, "What are you doing?" And he says, "Oh, I didn't have a pencil." I said, "Are you?" Cuz these, you can't.
No, but you have to allow him, because it was obviously something that stuck out to him.
I think the way I see it, because the books I have, we pass it around here, so we passing around the rock like it's Dame Dash, boom, 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 boom. Like Lauren gets it, Mikhailo gets it, Ishmael gets it, my mum gets it. So if I mark it up too much, then it spoils it for them. So I have a very light pencil. You get me?
Question: Do you guys use Audible or any? Because I think that's one thing I've moved away from actually hard copies, and I've now I signed a membership with Audible.
Actually, what?
And I
go ahead, Oli.
Go
ahead.
And I find it easier just because, especially when I'm driving, because I drive to work and back from work, and I can't be reading a book behind the wheel. So I feel like by playing the Audible, it allows me to.
Yeah, Oli, what you telling me when you're not going to and from work, you're not just listening to Take Flight podcast on repeat? I'm disappointed, bro.
I edit it, so how many times I'm going to listen to it when I edit it?
But it's just like reading. You can never get enough of it.
Actually, no, Oli, you make a great point about Audible, because it's been recommended to me multiple times, and to be very honest, I haven't got around to doing it, because in that sense, I'm a bit old school. I like having the physical copy in my hand, but there are moments I know during my day where if I had Audible, I could listen to these books and really make the most of it. And then on the flip side, I've had friends who are kind of mildly dyslexic, or they just don't enjoy reading, and for them, they've got into the love of reading books through Audible. So it's a great app that I think comes highly recommended.
Yeah, we don't. I don't.
For me, it's just not for me. I can't pay attention, and the reason why I like reading itself is because it helps me
Focus.
for my mental stimulation, brain exercise, and focus. And I feel that we live in an age where, our phone will flash up. We take our hand reaches for the phone to see what message or notifications come through. And if we're not careful, this generation will become one that can't focus on things for more than 3-4 minutes, because listening to something is good. But it obviously depends. It depends what kind of learner you are. If you're a visual learner, kinesthetic, etc. But I need to learn by seeing myself. Otherwise, listening, I would pay attention for a few moments, but then I can easily switch off and forget even the last sentence that I listened to.
Yeah, no audio
so
or
that's
Kindle
just-
stuff around here, boy. Straight hard copy book.
Kindle is same as you reading the book.
No, but Kindle's different. Or I just can't read off. Like for example, I can't use my phone if I'm a passenger in the car. I can't read things, and I start to feel, is it motion sickness or some sort of feeling that I get when I'm reading off my phone.
You guys are you and P are aging, man.
You're living that lazy lifestyle. You live that lazy lifestyle. That Dubai changed you.
Sorry, guys, I can't read on Kindles. What's this technology?
Dubai changed. Dubai changed you. Lazy.
I even got to a point where I needed
lazy
a
boy.
hard book, hardback. Straight, I needed that.
Hardback.
No, I needed that.
Because you're folding the pages.
I feel more like a don when I'm reading the hardback.
No, I think for me the only downside for Audible, which they need to work on, is how do you take notes? Because I think that's the biggest part. So what I find myself doing, they've got a way where you can sort of save the last 30 seconds of a particular audio. So I do that when I hear something. I'm like, oh shoot, I want to go back to that. I want to follow up on that. Let me just save it.
Yeah, and it's difficult when you're driving.
And then also it's like you'd want that to be in a written format, or at least sometimes when I'm at home and I'm listening to it Audible, what I do is I take my notes on my iPhone and I write stuff down. Like, oh, okay, this is a great area. Let me write it, abbreviate it, and then go back to it. But I think sometimes it's good to just have the hard copy. It's just for me the time. I don't always find the time when I'm sitting still and can read a book. So I always try to do it in my commute. And Audible is the way that I'm able to make sure I get the knowledge out of the books.
Hashtag not an ad. But you've heard about Pablo's reading renaissance.
Renaissance. I like that. That should be the title of this episode. Reading Renaissance.
They're reading Renaissance.
Renaissance.
How he read the 52 books in a year. He dropped some good tips. And remember, you pass on 100% of the book. You pass on the knowledge of 100%.
Whoa! Let me just take a moment. Let me quickly drop. God, Daniel Johnson just stuttered with a quote. Whoa! This never happens. But Daniel, if you pull too many out of the bag, we're going to overlook this. But Ollie, do not edit that out.
He's going to edit. I'll edit it. Don't worry.
Go on. What's the call?
You pass on knowledge on 100% of the books you read, and you also pass on 100% knowledge on the books you don't read. So choose wisely. So now, with that said, books galore. Over to P for his recommendation of the week. Come on, then.
If P suddenly reviewed just 52 books right now.
No, but that's the thing. That's exactly what I wanted to do. I was actually going to run through the 52 books straight.
Oh, solid. All right, cool. Go ahead.
So I haven't got.
Wait, are you going to do like the book? Are you going to do from the first one and last one and choose a couple in the middle?
Actually, go ahead. Let's
do a few books. Maybe as I'm doing it, you guys can count them. Maybe I come up short in it. In this order, so I had Relentless, Way of the Wolf, How Successful People Think, Everything Store, How to Win Friends and Influence People, From Good to Great, The E-Myth, Notes from a Friend, Success from Scratch, School of Greatness, The Richest Man in Babylon, The Decision Book, As a Man Think It, Bounce, Outwitting the Devil, High Performing Habits, Screw It, Let's Do It, The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, Rest, Phil Jackson, The Last Season, Ecom Evolved, The Capitalist Code, The Monk Who Sold His Ferrari, How to Speak Money, The Power of Now, Tribe of Mentors, Drive, The Power of Others, Man's Search for Meaning, Rewire Your Habits, How to Get Rich, The Practicing Mind, The Ultimate Guide to Facebook Ads, Property Magic, Total Money Makeover, Rich Habits, The Secret, The $1 Million One Person Business, The Miracle Morning, 50 Ways to Raise a Deposit for a Property, The Subtle Arts of Not Giving a FUCK, Be Obsessed or Be Average, Unfuck Your Habit, Don't Sweat the Small Stuff, The Power of Positive Thinking, Start with Why, The Click Moment, More Sales, Less Time, Talk Like Ted, How to Be a People Person, Sapiens, Key MBA Models, and the 10 Keys to Success.
I think.
I only counted like 40.
Yeah,
I think you should try again.
I think that was 49, bro. You may need to go through that list again.
I can't even like 40 or 60 because I didn't know when the title started and ended.
I think so. You want to go through that again? Nah, so what we should do is
I'll send you. No.
So guys, thanks for listening to episode 24 of Take My Podcast.
Obviously, P skipped a couple of grades and classes in school. He didn't go to maths.
Actually, the first question that I had, and I don't know how you were going to break it down, but the first question I had is: if we focus on the top 5, for example, what is it about the top 5 that made them the top 5 for you?
Who's doing it on this one?
Wait, before Pabilo answers this question, because the listeners can't see this on video, just before I ask this question, Olu, whose camera was switched off, suddenly the camera switches on and his face is 1 millimeter away from the camera, because this is a running joke, but whenever Pabilo Timbo has a book review, Olu is on it with the question.
Hey, P, you sweating?
Go ahead. Why? No, sure.
I would be.
So your question.
Yeah, so the question was that if we focus on the top 5, what is it about that top 5 that made them the top? And
That was
maybe a bit about the
top
genres.
5. That was the list of the order of reading. So if they want the top 5, they're gonna have to wait until we post, and we can put it on the.
Okay.
I thought you were gonna say wait until you read it.
All right, cool. Guys,
what's your out of it? Do you know which one is your favorite one? If you had to choose one, if you had to recommend one after we've just heard this list, which one would you recommend and sort of why? Because I heard a few that I was like, okay, cool, that's one that I've read and that's a dope one. So I'm just trying to think which one would be your one.
But would you be able to recommend just one? Because those books are all in different categories.
No. When you say one, it's one for you. Because I feel like everyone's got that one book, which is. And we can go right.
Or phrase it like this: What was the one book that was most impactful?
Yeah, exactly. Because I know for me it was Rich Dad Poor Dad. When I read that book, I was like, that made my mind just start, like go in a different way.
You look like
I'm looking at the.
Sorry,
book,
go ahead.
So
No, you look like you're doing a solid Sodge there right now.
I would have to go with Tony Robbins' Money. Have to. I think that was being a finance person and thinking I knew what I knew, thinking it was everything. No, I think I'd have to say, but that's from a money standpoint. I have to probably give you from a health standpoint, love and something else. But I think that was the book because it was 700 pages, 2 weeks, and I literally didn't do anything apart from read that book. And to Daniel's point, that was one of the books where after reading the chapter, I literally implemented what the exercise was, and I think that was, I'd probably say that's in the top 3. Outwitting the Devil is another one. That was a strong one.
Big up.
And then probably The Secret. Probably those 3 books.
Mm-hmm. And we've done a book review on both of them, and we'll put that on the website so you guys can go look at it, listen back, and also purchase through Amazon.
Boom. So Ollie,
Cool.
Ollie, you done with your questions or?
I just realized that P just got out of reading a book this week. He basically gave
No,
us.
no, I'm doing.
Oh, you are
No,
doing
no,
a book
I'm,
review.
I'm doing book review. Why
Oh
am I not saying?
shoot! Hey!
Oli
Oh my
was locked and loaded, ready to
No, no, no,
blow.
no, no, no,
Oh,
no.
cool.
No, straight. So the book review this week is called "The Compound Effect" by Darren Hardy.
Okay.
Who's-
Okay.
This guy's wrong with this guy,
No.
man.
I'm not gonna lie to you. Yeah, I was a little disappointed. I was like, wait, this guy did not just name 52 books.
No,
and
no,
he's
no,
not
no,
gonna.
no, no,
Okay,
no, no.
cool.
That was for maybe it was put for the still first segment. Okay, cool. So
But
The
but
compound
introduce the
effect
book review.
effectively is
What part?
summary.
What you listen to?
So let's pass it on to P with a book review.
We did this already.
Oh my days! It's
Again.
fine. Just leave it. Let it flow, innit?
Yeah, I'll cut that.
Let it flow.
Go on.
So are we in book review session now? Yeah.
I thought we were in it before.
Yeah, I
when
actually,
you-
the way
were in it
that
before, when
I
I passed
understood
over
is
to you.
that the book review was your list and why there's
Oh no, this is better.
Yeah.
This is
Oh
better.
no. Okay. So cool. Okay, so the compound effect by Darren Hardy. So jumpstart your income, your life, and your success. So the compound effect effectively is small, unsexy, but smart decisions made consistently every day that are in alignment with your big vision that will lead effectively to incomparable incredible results. And it's an important, I think, concept and mindset to keep in mind when building habits and working on our journey. Because what I find is very interesting about this is that the results in this particular process are really massive, really incredible, but the steps in the moment are very insignificant. So you don't notice if you start waking up early in the morning, you're not necessarily going to see the upside or the payoff there and then. So in the immediate short term, you don't necessarily feel the change per se, but it's leading to a greater good. So it's and then I can go into sort of the main talking topics. But the problem that Darren Hardy sort of spells out and wants us to understand is that he says we're very much living in a microwave type society today, or culture, where we want everything to be instant. So we've spoken about this before. So he's talking about instant downloads, fast food, sort of same day shipping, and he's urging us to trade wanting immediate results for immediate alignment with our core values. Because by doing this, if we're able to better understand what our core values are and internalize this, each action and decision that we make on a daily basis will help us move in the right direction. Have you guys, before I go on to sort of talk, have you guys read this book?
Nah, this is a new one.
Nah, I haven't.
No, new.
Oh, I thought, okay, this is actually probably quite common. So the first way he introduces, or he starts talking about the compound effect, was actually using the example of compounding interest, which a lot of you guys know from a finance standpoint. And he gives you the example of, and I ask you guys, would you take 3 million now, or would you decide to have 1 penny that doubles every day for 31 days?
Say that again, Pete.
So would you
Yeah.
take £3 million
Yeah.
now, or 1 penny that doubles every day for 31
For
days?
31 days. Just because of the nature. Yeah, just
1 penny or £1. 1 penny or £1.
Yeah.
1 penny.
That doubles every day, only for 30 days. Did you say?
31 days.
31
Only
days.
for 31 days.
for me,
I need to do the maths.
because of the nature of the question, I'm going to go number 2.
Yeah, obviously. So it's because in the
Wow,
end,
Pete,
in the
crush my
end,
dreams,
like,
crush my dreams, bro. I was thinking I was being like really agile and smart, but cheers.
but most people, because I think it's a penny down. It might even be a pound. But the point is,
It must be a
it has
pound
to be a
because
pound
if a
because-
penny is
yeah.
not over 3 million.
These guys are ready
Yeah,
to
but you done
correct
the-
you at
you done
any
the
time,
calculation, you done
Pabilo.
the
They're ready to
calculation.
correct you anytime.
you done the calculation now.
Huh?
But what effectively does the example lead? If you take the penny example or the pound example, it leads
No, sorry,
to
it is 1 penny. I think it's 5 million.
exactly 5.3 million. So
Yeah.
most people would jump at the 3 million. most people would jump at the 3 million. Whereas if you took the penny, you'd end up at 5.3. So, and he says that we humans are very much similar. So imagine what we would be able to achieve if we decided to sort of read 1 chapter a day or do an exercise for 10 minutes a day, and we were to do this for 365 days. By the end of the year, how much progress would we have made? The thing about it is that at the time, it doesn't seem to be very, it's not like 10 minutes a day. People are thinking, oh, what's that? I need to do much longer. And then he moves on to talking about unsexy fairy tales. So the $5.3 million or pounds, we said,
No, I think it's 10 million. You know,
But okay, 5, 10, 20.
no, 15.
15, 20.
I think it's over 10 million.
But the concept is clear, and the 5.3 million dollars is acts as the fairy tale ending, but the way you get there is not sexy at all. So it's that daily discipline. It's that committing to doing one thing that fits your core values every single day and not failing on it. And this is where I think this piece got quite interesting. Is that it's the small daily choices which are easy to do, but what makes it tricky is that they're also easy to skip. So it's very easy to say, okay, I'll read tomorrow, or I'll work out tomorrow. And what you're doing is effectively pushing back your ability to compound and gather momentum. And then before you realize, is one tomorrow turns into 2 weeks, 2 months, and then you got to middle of the year and you're thinking, oh, I haven't even started that goal that I said I wanted to do at the start of the year. So you can't then expect to have that sort of incredible results by the end of the year. The last, he helps us to understand the importance of momentum. So he calls it "Hello, Mr. Mo." High performers are very well aware of momentum, and they're working to get momentum to be their best friend. And he uses the analogy as a rocket. So a rocket uses all of its energy and its fuel within the first couple seconds than it does for the rest of its journey because of the gravitational pull. And we're very much our habits, building habits is very much the same for us. In the beginning, it's extremely difficult to make that change. But if we can commit to the small easy choices and keep it consistently each day, we find ourselves building a great momentum that then just carries us. So maybe I can ask you guys at this time, what I guess small daily choices are you guys doing to move towards your goals and align with your core values?
This is basically back to Warren Buffett's compounding concept. So it's like this is not sexy, and I think that's the thing you need to take about this. If you want long-term wealth or long-term growth, it's not going to be sexy.
No.
It's going to be doing the small thing over a significant amount of time. And I believe like social media and just I honestly feel like it's social media, and social media has let us see a small few people or a small population of people's success, and automatically we want everything now, 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 now. And we started living in this age where we just want everything immediately, and that makes us make a lot of bad decisions, life decisions. If it's in your health, you see
You guys
people
hear me,
taking
guys? I'm muting
surgery
myself.
versus going to the gym, and you see people like trying to do those short, like quick wins, like okay, invest here and then losing their money quickly. And it's really something that needs to change if you really want to be wealthy, or if you want to see growth in your life or success, is doing the ugly things but being consistent, and knowing that if you just follow the simple instructions, either that could be compounding when it comes to investing, or the small habits, daily habits, like you said, waking up, reading every day, etc., you'll be surprised where you'll
Yes.
be in 5, 10 years. And I think that's a part that people need to get away from, that short term, short sighted return and gratification, and think about yourself in 5, 10 years. Because a lot of the stuff that you were doing right now, we're only going to feel the true impact of it 10 years down the line, 20 years down the line.
Yeah.
And you'll see people spending all their money on social media, living their best life. But wait 5, 10 years, you'll see the difference. And
What,
that's
when the interest rate on those credit cards charge up?
exactly. So it's like move away from that short term and go to that long term. So this book is really like, I love that concept, and I'm going to pick this up, man. So I really
Are you
like
sure, are you sure you're gonna pick it up? Or you're gonna download it on Audible?
Sorry, I'm going to download it on Audible. Let me not lie. I'm going to download it on Audible. You're right.
Yeah, and then
No.
just the last two. But exactly to Olu's point, totally agree. I think it's something which we need to be aware of the importance of compounding, what it can do with how your habits, because also we have to keep in mind that compounding works both ways. So it doesn't just work in sort of good habits; it also works with negative habits. So what does a life look like when you're doing? Let's say you're eating fast food for 6 months, at the end of 6 months, your health is going to be significantly compromised. So we need to keep in mind that it really works both ways, and momentum picks up both ways as well. The last two pieces he says is called bookend your days. So book BOOKEND your days. It's a lot easier to control your AMs and your PMs versus the in-betweens. So really try to have a strong hold on your morning routine, and also how you switch off and go to sleep, because that is effectively where you can get the same effect as what he was saying as the rocket. A lot of energy used, and that can really propel and take you off. Because again, we know in between is where you're not necessarily always in control. People are pulling you for different requests. You're being used for different things, but at least in the mornings and the evenings, you have it to yourself to really build out a routine that can work for you. So the one thing I think, just the one thing that we've tried in the past, it's been inconsistent, but I know it's worked really well, which is waking up before 5 a.m. So this is something which I know me and Shuo are pushing, and aim is to do it every single day. And then just use that time in the morning to be as productive as possible.
Very true. And one thing you mentioned about habits is something that stood out to me. Is I remember a quote I heard: "Good habits are hard to form but easy to live with. Bad habits are easy to form but hard to live with." Anyway, well, thank you for staying true to episode 24 of Take Flight Podcast. If you have any feedback for us, please email us at Take Flight Podcast, or on Instagram, hit us up in our DM, and our Instagram handle is at Take Flight Podcast. Thank you very much. Have a great weekend, great week, and we'll see you on the next episode. Take care.
Take off, take flight with you. For we never fly away.